Welcome back to Let's Make a Game. In this video I'm going to talk about using images in tables, and in particular I'm going to talk about colspan and rowspan, two ways to improve the layout of tables that have images in them. So using images in tables is actually very easy. I have a table here and each cell of the table has an image in it, and all I needed to do to make that happen was I set up a table, as we've discussed in previous videos, and instead of having text in between the TD and the /TD, I had an IMG command, again something we've discussed in previous videos. And that works fine when the pictures are roughly the same size, but we start to get problems when we have images of different sizes. So here we have a very tall image, a very wide image, and a couple of small images. And putting one image in each cell, you can see that A, the layout's not very good, and B, in particular, we're wasting a lot of space. Because this one's really wide, this small picture has this really wide cell, so it has a lot of space to either side of it. Well, we can improve this slightly by realizing that we are able to have more than one thing in a cell. So here I've got the picture of the city, and then I've got a little caption image in the same cell. And again, that's quite easy to do. All I did was within the same TD/TD, I had an IMG command, then a line break, and then another IMG command. Similarly, I put all of these four character pictures in the same cell, and again, that's very easy to code. You just have one IMG command after another. But I put this other information down here in the same cell to illustrate a problem that we now have. Underneath each character picture, I want to have their hit points. So I just put the four IMG commands, then a line break, and then HP and whatever the HP is. Well, you can see the problem there. They're not really lined up. We don't have the bit of text underneath the relevant image. Now, we could improve that slightly by putting spaces in between each HP, but that wouldn't solve it completely, partly because this program is going to look slightly different on different computers. And even on the same computer, if you're using a different browser, it can look slightly different. So even if we got it perfect on our computer, we'd never be sure that it was going to be perfect on other people's computers. So really, what we want is to break out of the strict grid. This would look better if we could say, well, this scroll here, maybe instead of it being in one square of the grid, it could sort of be in two squares, one on top of the other. That way it would be next to the city picture, but also next to the character pictures. And similarly, if we wanted to have the HP lined up with the picture, we could have each of these in their own cells. And to do that, we'd need to be able to say, well, this wide picture, we don't want it in a single square of the grid. We want it in several squares that are next to each other. And similarly with the caption. And that is what colspan and rowspan allow us to do. So let's have a look at this same information, but using colspan and rowspan. As you can see, it's much more compact and it looks a lot better. We have the character image, and then underneath that we have their HP, and it's all lined up perfectly, and it will be lined up perfectly on any computer. And we have this city picture and the caption kind of covering four different squares. And similarly, to get rid of that empty space in the bottom left-hand corner, we've got this scroll in two different squares, one on top of the other. So let's have a look at the code that allows that to happen. It's fairly straightforward. All we do is, when we have the TD, we say colspan or rowspan equals quote, you have to have it in quotes, the number of cells that we want, and then a quote. So in this case, TD rowspan equals 3. And what that means is this top left cell, we want that to sort of cover 3 squares on top of each other. And in that cell, we put img8.png, which is the scroll picture. Then the next cell over, the one with the city and the caption, has colspan equals quote 4 quote. It spans 4 columns. In other words, it's 4 squares that are next to each other. Now you can have colspan and rowspan in the same TD. You would just have TD rowspan equals quote whatever the number you wanted, and then end quote, and then you'd have colspan equals whatever number that is. You can have it in either order. It doesn't really matter. Then we have all of the character pictures. So we have a TD with image 1, a line break, and HP7. So that's that one there. Then we have image 2 and their hit points, and so on for the other character pictures. Now the thing you have to be careful of when you're setting up a table like this is counting the cells. For example, this first cell covers 3 squares, so there's 1 less square in subsequent rows. It can get quite complicated. So I would recommend maybe doing a little drawing and sort of counting everything and making sure that you've got everything right. But other than that, you just use colspan or rowspan or both in the same cell, and that will allow you to break out of the grid and therefore have much better layouts. So I will leave it there for now. I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.